If you suffer from anxiety, here is what I want you to know. Sometimes anxiety is coming from the people who have access to you. Today we're talking about a subtle cause of anxiety that most people overlook, the people you surround yourself with. Welcome to video 2 of You plus Anxiety equal BFF, how to stop fighting anxiety and start feeling safe in your own life. I'm Angie, your inner glow coach, and I help women stop letting anxiety run their lives so they can finally stop playing small and wake up to their own power. And like all of my videos, each video in this series has at least one powerful action step at the end because it is possible to feel safe in your body while feeling anxiety, but to truly learn this, you have to practice it. And if you are suffering from anxiety, I want you to know that it is possible to feel good in your life, and you deserve to feel that way. Today we're talking about reason number 2, where anxiety comes from. And if you missed the last video, check that out because I do explain all of the different sources of anxiety, some of which will be covered by this series. Reason why you have anxiety, reason number 2, you surround yourself with unloving and unsupportive people. And you may be thinking, duh, I would never do that. But this is why I am covering the things I am covering in these series, because sometimes the subtle things can creep up on you without you realizing it. So let's go back to the beginning. The L of my GLOW method stands for light yourself up, because we are all born with this light inside of us. If you see little kids, like 6 and under, they're extremely creative, very playful, they run around, they're screaming, their clothes don't match, like they do not give AF about what anyone thinks of them. They are fully expressed, fully lit up, loving their lives. And as we go through life, there's society systems, school systems, family systems, and all these things outside of us are telling us what we should or should not be doing. So we slowly start conforming to these things outside of ourselves. And in doing this, it dims the true light of who we really are. And so in this conforming to things outside of ourselves, we are conditioned from a very young age to be loyal to family, to be loyal to jobs, to be loyal to friendships because of history or mutual connections or whatever. But how often have you looked at the people in your life and truly asked yourself, do I even like them? Are they treating me the way I deserve to be treated? Because when you're operating from this dimmed version of yourself that's just running on autopilot because you've been conditioned to conform out to things outside of yourself. So we kind of get to this point where we're just running on autopilot, going through the motions because we're not living life for us. So that makes it harder, first of all, to wake up to your own power, but also understand what you truly deserve in life. And I was awakened to this concept by one of my mentors. His name is Neil. And this is about 6 or 7 years ago. And at the time, his son was young, maybe like 2 or 3 years old. And Neil had published a memoir that exposed a family secret that his mom was not happy about. So his parents were not speaking to him. He had reached out several times to let them know that they had a grandchild and that he would like to have them in his life and his son's life, but they never responded. And even if they would have, they lived across the country, so his son's exposure to them still would have been very limited. And also his wife's parents, they lived nearby and they were very aware that they had a grandson, but they never visited. But there was this woman, I think she was a neighbor or something, and she was the same age as his son's actual grandparents, and she would offer to babysit or play with him and whatever. And initially, Neil was stuck in this mindset of being stuck on the reasons why the actual grandparents weren't being present and why they weren't doing this or that. But then one day he had this epiphany because this woman, even though she wasn't blood related, she was literally volunteering to be the grandparent. So that's when he realized this concept of family of choice, which means intentionally surrounding yourself with loving and supportive people. Because unfortunately, sometimes our family, friends, or other people close to us are not loving and supportive for whatever reason. And by the way, that reason usually doesn't have anything to do with us. But my point is, this is why it gets so sneaky. Because, and I'll tell my own personal point of view of this, because growing up, both of my parents were very emotionally unavailable. My feelings were dismissed. My mom was angry all of the time, so whenever I spoke up or did something, it was usually met with anger. I was treated like a burden, and not only by my parents, but by my grandparents, and I was criticized a lot by my mom. I never remember receiving hugs or kisses or words of encouragement from anybody. So I grew up thinking that I deserved all of that. And even worse, I blindly carried these, because I had a belief that I didn't deserve to be loved as a result of all of this stuff going on in my environment. Because as an adult, I understand what that means, because again, whatever my parents or grandparents or whatever, the reasons for their behaviors had nothing to do with me. And as an adult, I understand what that means. But as a child, you just don't have the tools and knowledge to be able to interpret that. So the way I interpreted the situation was I developed a belief that I didn't deserve to be loved. So the bad part about this is because that was my survival mechanism as a child and teenager, I carried that belief into adulthood, and that belief is not true. So it should come as no surprise that not only did I continue to tolerate that treatment from my family, but I also attracted friends and boyfriends and jobs and coworkers who treated me the exact same way. But because I was operating from a limiting belief that I deserved it, and I had no idea what unconditional love and support even was or what it looked like, I blindly spent almost 40 years of my life living that way. And this should also come as no surprise, I had chronic, debilitating anxiety, which I talked about in the last video of this series. But when I started my healing journey in earnest, I started to trust myself and respect myself and love myself. And slowly, I started to truly believe that I deserve to be loved. And unfortunately, this came with the realization that a lot of my friends and family were not loving and supportive. And they had been contributing to this mindset and this slow chipping away of my self-worth. So this realization that I had surrounded myself with unloving and unsupportive people, which by the way, as an adult was a choice, even though it was kind of operating on this subconscious level, it was a choice. So I also had the choice to change it. So that involved setting boundaries and even ending some friendships, which I'm not going to sugarcoat the process of cleaning up the quality of the people you surround yourself with, because it does involve letting some people go, and that can be very hard. And I actually have a playlist on friendship breakups for that reason, because I don't feel like we talk about it enough, because it can be just as painful as a romantic relationship. But on the other side, I now intentionally surround myself with very loving and supportive people, and I very rarely have anxiety anymore. As a matter of fact, it's to the point where sometimes I'll leave an interaction and feel anxiety, and because it's so uncommon now, I really take the time to dig into why I'm feeling that way, because I don't want to surround myself with unloving and unsupportive people anymore, because it totally wrecked my mental health. But here's something else that I want you to know about this, because your anxiety, it's not a bad thing. I know it doesn't feel good, but it's actually a signal that something is wrong. It's doing its job. It's trying to warn you that this other person or situation is emotionally or even physically unsafe, whether it's an actual or perceived threat. So it's on you to take accountability to figure out the source of the threat, and if it's a true threat, to get rid of it or somehow neutralize it. And this could be in the form of an overly critical family member or a friend who throws shade at your success because they feel threatened by it. And again, like, other people's uncomfortableness with you shining is never your problem, because we are not playing small to make other people feel comfortable anymore. Because us dimming our lights to make other people feel comfortable makes us uncomfortable, and that discomfort eventually shows up as anxiety. So no, we are not playing small to make other people feel comfortable anymore. Your own emotional and physical safety should always be your number one priority. And your anxiety is the first signal to that. So if you are feeling anxiety around someone, really question why you are feeling that. And the main thing that I want you to understand is never underestimate the importance of surrounding yourself with loving and supportive people. Which brings us to our action items. And like video 1, I'm going to do 2 in this video. And again, these are practical steps that you can implement in your everyday life so that you can actually embody change, because awareness alone doesn't stop anxiety. Action item number 1, truly ask yourself, why am I feeling anxious around certain people or situations or environments? So this could be family, friends, jobs, and again, this could be a real threat and it could be a perceived threat. And by perceived threat, I mean it's triggering you because you need to heal something in yourself. So the next time you feel anxious after interacting with someone, ask yourself, what specifically triggered this feeling? Did this person say, do something critical, dismissive, or unsafe? Or is this reaction connected to something that I still need to heal? And this helps you distinguish between real threats and emotional triggers. And actually, before I go into the extra credit, just to give you an example of this, I went to a birthday party, it's about a month ago now, and it was on the beach, and I was invited by a friend, and she was the only person that I knew because I don't know her other friends. And I was in a conversation with this man, and all of a sudden I realized that I was feeling really anxious and uncomfortable. And I didn't really process it till after I left the party, but the reason was because all he talked about was himself. He never asked me any questions. He wasn't interested in me. And one of my personal values is that I'm unavailable for one-sided dynamics, because that totally drains my energy and I'm just not available for it. So that is what was triggering my anxiety, because there was a disconnect between my personal value and what was happening. So this is like, your anxiety is actually really valuable information. So by getting myself the hell out of there, my anxiety actually lessened. But I did have to go through the thought process to actually rationally think through all of that. So that's what it actually looks like in action. So that is your action step. And for extra credit, if there's someone or something in your life that is unloving or unsupportive, set a boundary, because they don't get to dim your light anymore. And if you need help on this, check out my people-pleasing playlist or my friendship breakup playlist. And action item number 2, do at least one thing a day that brings you joy to rekindle your inner glow. And what this looks like is, again, when you see little kids, they are totally in their light. So you get to do that every day. Like, just set time aside, and it doesn't have to be like hours on end. Like, the thing I do every day to bring myself joy is surfing. And yes, that can be time intensive, and does, from the time I walk out the door to the time I come home, it can take several hours. But if I don't have time, I love to dance, and most songs are only like 3 or 3.5 minutes long. So sometimes I just dance and I feel alive and it rekindles my inner glow. And the reason why this is important is because, again, we get conditioned to be things or have an identity in things outside of ourselves. So this conditions us to be ourselves. It conditions us to feel joy. And by doing it every single day and making it a priority, it conditions us that we deserve to feel good. So again, this does not have to be time intensive. And if this is new to you, I actually recommend, like, just when you start, keep it at 5 minutes. And I promise you, you will want to extend the time period, and this will not feel like a chore. I promise you. This is like the number one thing that anyone can do to improve their life, and it's free and simple, and it's just so amazing. So I highly recommend doing this. So action item 1, to review: question how you feel around certain people and certain environments. Extra credit, take action on if you're not feeling good. And then action item number 2, do at least one thing a day that brings you joy to rekindle your inner glow. And if you don't know what that thing is, because I know so many people get disconnected from their inner light, I usually tell people or ask them the question, like, what did you enjoy doing when you were 5 years old? What lit you up when you were 5 years old? And some people are so disconnected from their inner joy that they don't even remember. So if that is you, this is what I recommend. Just go on a mindful walk. Don't bring your phone, don't bring anything. Just appreciate the trees, appreciate nature, just let your mind wander. And the purpose of this is to connect to your intuition. So I just want you, don't force anything, just let your mind go where it goes as you're appreciating everything around you, and you will probably have an insight on that walk. So in video 3 of the You plus Anxiety equal BFF, how to stop fighting anxiety and feeling safe in your own life, we're going to talk about another surprising source of anxiety that most people completely overlook: society's arbitrary bullshit rules. Because sometimes what's best for the masses isn't best for you. So I will see you there.